Well, welcome everybody. This is Sary Dobhran and Stephen Kirwin. We are talking today about Stephen's journey. Stephen is a 12-time triathlete participant, Ironman.
Ironman, yeah, let's get that straight.
I was going to let you introduce yourself, and mainly because I'm so honored to meet you and to have this conversation and share it. I think it's really
Likewise.
And the value that we share and the passion that we have for helping people with their traumas through somatic work. But I was going to let you share the different modalities so that I don't mess up on that.
Okay. You want me to tell you what I do?
Yeah, tell us what you do.
Well, it's like an interesting integrated blend. So I was traditionally trained at the Boulder College of Massage Therapy back in 96, I believe, in neuromuscular therapy, deep tissue, sports massage, and that's sort of the label that I continued for quite a long time and sort of shied away from other things. I wanted to keep it really clinical because I guess I was fearful of what was lying under the surface of what I now bring into as a fusion of healing arts. So going around the world, I've met multiple different healers or shamans, whatever you want to call them, and shared on their what they knew from a Thai monk, my friend Nikon from Phuket, who taught me Reiki, to a friend of mine, Dr. Song from he was a Shaolin Kung Fu monk, and he taught me the importance of working really hard. And that was very interesting because I came from Boulder, Colorado, where he tried to work the least amount as possible and have as much fun, to shifting it's like trying to work and take care of family and all that stuff. And then I had a really wonderful teacher. She was half American and half Thai. Her name was Pat Thuaman. She taught me my craniosacral work and some of the Reiki. And what else? And I met this very interesting naturopath in Thailand from America, actually, but he taught me a lot of my cupping and the gua sha work so I kind of did it all together, wound it all together, and that's what I do now. It's like an integrated bodywork session.
Yeah.
Is this still going? Okay, yep. Good.
And I've had the pleasure of receiving that healing energy from you. So it's really, I'm experiencing as your client, your journey, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen any shift in acceptance of some of these modalities, or in somatics or trauma healing itself in your time?
Yeah, absolutely. Huge amounts of just. I remember when I got to this place called Kamalaya Wellness Retreats in Koh Samui, Thailand, and at any given time there was a handful of really talented therapists and healers from all over the world doing multiple different things. And so I was coming in from working really clinical once again in a place called Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and in Singapore. Then I started going to this Kamalaya, and I just started meeting these different people. And that's where I met this guy, Dr. Song, and then this guy, Dr. Aaron Bullington, who showed me some of the different modalities that I started to bring aboard. And, meeting people doing past life regression, all stuff that before I almost stuck a nose up to, this saying, this is bullshit. Well, it isn't. And once I opened my heart, it was all that stuff. Maybe I was nervous to expose what was inside of me, because my mother is a Reiki master, and we have some healing going down through that side. And also my father was an orphan from Ireland, so I don't know exactly, but I get a really strong feeling. And so was another lady who I met at this place, a shaman lady, and she said, you need to go to Ireland because that's where a lot of your healing vibrations come from. And she named the town. She actually brought me a rock that I had always carried with me. Now it's at my clinic in Hong Kong. I didn't bring it with me this time, but long short, I was open to everything at some point. Bring it on, I was doing everything because, when you get to be older, some of that stuff that you buried, and I buried it through Ironman, and then, staying very clinical with my work because I didn't want to feel what was underneath. And when you go in, then you realize, oh man, I got a lot of shit down there. I want to get it out.
Yeah.
And I was more happy getting it out than trying to contain it through surface level things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience in our session the other day was really profound for me as a healer myself. I was thinking, wow, it's really good for me to go through this. And it's not just about remembering what it feels like. It can be painful at times, but more the whole process, the aftercare, like the kind of dreams I had that night, my physical needs since then, that I'm still 3 days later, life changed. Like there's no going back,
Yeah.
And what's coming up for me is somewhat newer in this practice is I find myself wondering if the person really wants to go that deep. Mm-hmm. And I know that's not my job. So my question for you is like, how can you tell if someone is ready for that journey?
You can pretty much tell with someone's energy when they come through where they're willing to go. I mean, that's how it's sort of like your energy health history questionnaire. Mm-hmm. So you have the normal one, seeing what kind of ailments people have and, things you shouldn't do or should do. But you can tell through just the moment you meet someone where they want to go. And then I also, a lot of times I ask them, so what do you want? I mean, what do you want to get out? Like with your session, because you're a fellow body worker and healer, I wanted to work on you. Also, you being an athlete. So it's an interesting combination of being an athlete, recovering from what you've gone through with your trauma. So we're quite similar in many ways, which is probably why we get along so well. But I wanted to work on you like I wanted someone to work on me. Because I wanted to get that release, and I was looking at your body, and we had the opportunity to train together and hearing your story. I mean, we don't know each other on this planetary realm for very long, but we've known each other for a long time. And so to get into, like with your fractured elbow, I just really wanted to unwind you, and I wanted to bring you places that maybe you haven't had before. Mm-hmm. With that sort of level of integrity and understanding, being, we had a few things in common, coming from deep trauma, being athletes, and adrenal fatigues, and being in the healing arts. So we were matching on that level. And so I try to in the brew, the alchemist brew before a session, sort of bring together things. But sometimes I don't have any plan that comes together magically. Yeah, sure. I'm divinely guided to do it. No, I mean, I have a basic, how I'm going to approach this, but it always morphs into something different because I get a state of healing possession in the work.
Yeah, that's what I love about it the most. Yeah, it's not prescriptive.
No, it's not prescriptive, and there's some basic things that you do that you learn in school and stuff like that you try to follow, but even that sometimes gets thrown out the window, and you gotta like a canvas that ends up being something similar to what a Jackson Pollock painting or something.
Right.
It's boom, 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 and then things all come together at the end of the book back. It's like, wow, that was freaking very phenomenal experience that you had.
Yeah. Like
with my experience with you. I hadn't had really good body work in a long time. I've had a lot of body work, but present body work and someone who's soulfully connected is entirely different than someone who's just working mechanical.
How does it feel to you? What's the difference?
You can feel the heart. You can feel the energy. It's not just someone, treating your tendonitis in your elbow. You have someone who's nurturing your soul.
It's your body knows.
Your body knows, and when you can connect with someone who understands that, it's a magical experience. So when you find that, and you're a therapist, you better hang on to that because it's not often that you meet these sort of people. Mm-hmm. The true, I don't even like to call myself a healer, but I'll say true healers they're hard to find. There's a lot of charlatans and a lot of bullshit. And you don't find people who are that authentic often. So when you get that and the work is good, you're like, stay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what it was like to grow up with a mother that was a Reiki healer.
Yeah, I mean, you were in our house. It's like Alice in Wonderland, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I tried to get her to adopt me when I met her years ago. I said, if I'm closely related to anyone on this planet, it's you.
Well, you got her right down the street. You can drop in any time and go to the Alice in Wonderland / Buddhist temple / Christian refuge. Yeah, I mean...
It's a time warp.
She probably didn't... I don't think she even knew it until she got into her 40s or something like that she was... but she was more pulled towards social work, and that morphed into her 20 year plus experience with helping people in India. Her charitable trust, the Kirwin.org foundation that she did. But that's all part of that sort of energy coming through, the Reiki energy, the healing energy. Yeah, I mean, here's a good story. I did Ironman California, and I can't remember the year. Maybe it was 2001 or something like that. And I was laying in the transition area, just completely destroyed after the race, just laying there, and people were getting their bikes and collecting things. It's, after, 17 hours of being out there. And I was laying there, my eyes closed, just going, oh, Jesus, that was so hard. And then I feel these hands on me. And I look up, and there's my mother's face, and she held it for a little bit. I closed my eyes, and she just said, I do think that's your last one for quite a while. And it was. That was my last Ironman for 10 plus years. And I came back 5 years ago and did Ironman Malaysia, which wasn't any easier. It took me 10 years to do it again. But yeah, that's her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have that connection with her wherever you go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's definitely, I think we spoke about the other day, she had a career as a social worker, but she could have easily been sitting in Mount Shasta doing healing work, or Colorado Springs, where she was from, being a healer, because she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's why people are drawn to her, because she has that energy.
Yeah.
And that gets passed upon to other people. Like your line, you should look back, and I'm sure you got some pretty profound people that are passing their wisdom down to you.
I come from a long line of orphans, actually, very similar to your dad's story, and all Irish, Scottish, and Scandinavian.
Well, you got a lot of healing right there.
Yeah.
Survival in both places, the cold in Scandinavia and all the famines through Ireland. Mm-hmm. Ireland's got profound healing.
Yeah, tough people, connection to the earth.
Yeah. You never really know. If you're an orphan, you don't really know. I mean, you can look into it, but I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind that you have people who have passed down very sincere energy to you.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really acceptable I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, so it wasn't acceptable to really explore in the witchcraft, we'll call it. But my mother was very gifted with herbs and herbalism and natural healing method and stuff like that. And my dad I would call him an elemental, is where I learned how to garden and how to connect. Oh. Everything that I do somatically that connects me with nature, my dad taught me. Wow. They just don't see it the same way as I do.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, natural gifts. And it's neat to hear you talk about your experience with your mom, because I have a young son, and I just think it's pretty magical when a powerful woman can pass on that gift to a son that really recognizes that
sometimes you don't even realize it till you're older, but you already see it anyway.
Yeah.
You can feel his energy when he walks down the kitchen, He's pretty profound, strong guy.
So for you, when you were a kid, did you notice anything special about your mom?
Yeah, she always kept me out of trouble. She was always protecting me, shielding me from being involved in stuff that would have got me kicked out of school, and just kind of like helping me, just like, get out of school so you can continue your life. Yeah, she was always the protector. Mm-hmm. She protected me from things that would take me down, that I would, more of a, just kind of be involved with, but not heavily involved with. So she just kind of protect me, just keep me going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did you realize that she was remarkable or gifted?
I think really when I saw it come strongly into fruition is when she dedicated her life to her work in India.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I saw it when she was doing her social work in Colorado Springs, but I really saw it when I was not living in the States. I had begun my path, and she was working in India, and I saw what she did, and I envied it.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, it's really excited. She's done it for a long time. Yeah, she dedicated her entire, once my father died and she found it, that was her life. And I also understand where my kind of obsessive compulsive things come from too. Yeah. Because that was her complete goal, focus.
Yeah. Yep. Don't stop till you master it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, so that's neat. You got into the healing arts, and it sounds, from what I've learned from you from other podcasts or interviews, that what you studied in college was you were always interested in all different cultures, religions, languages.
Yeah.
You can see how you have an affinity for kind of the anthropological outlook. And then going into massage therapy, now that how did it happen that you merged that clinical aspect with that love of anthropology?
I think it was when I moved to Asia, when I began working in all throughout Southeast Asia. It's like it's almost an undeniable influence on what you're doing. But I always loved going into Buddhist temples, and even when I was like in high school, I had little posters that my mother would bring back for me, or in college, sorry. And I think it was just being exposed to it, especially in Thailand, because Thailand's Buddhism is very infused with animism. So it's got this very unique presence to it that's unlike any other Buddhist in the world, really. I think that's what shaped me. I like the magical aspect of it. You go in parts of Thailand and you're like, is this Buddhism or is this black magic?
Oh, wow.
Well, it's both.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it kind of transcends the religious aspect and goes more into like the mystery school.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
arts.
Buddhism really is more of like a way of life, a spiritual way of life anyway. Mm-hmm. But the way that the Thais approach their Buddhism is really unique. A lot of astrologists and shamans. Like when I got my Thai tattoos in a temple near Cambodia, I had sat with a Thai shaman for a day, going through these different rituals and going through bathings with like lemongrass water, and him drawing this sort of like lime chalk designs all over my body and going through prayers. And then he came in, did the astrology, and he picked out the tattoos that I have, the ones from the temple. I didn't pick them out. He did.
Oh, wow. But they came to him through vision.
They came to him through
process.
visions, and, I went there with my one of my first Muay Thai teachers, and he brought me back to his village, a friend of mine from Singapore. Mm-hmm. And we spent like 5 days hanging out, getting tattoos and all that stuff. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been your experience as an American living over there? I know that's a big question because you've also been over there, 20 years?
Yeah, close to. I was always surprised, especially in Cambodia, how forgiving they were to what we did to them, our government, Mm-hmm. When the mass mining of northeast Cambodia and people they were so friendly. You say you're from America, it's like, I would expect well, what do you do in our country? Killed so many of our people and mined our country or government.
Yeah, Jacuz.
Yeah. It's just kind of the opposite. You don't meet a ton of Americans. I mean, some, but people always give you a lot of respect. There's there's the Hollywood thing, and you get people would call me Bruce Willis or The Rock and things like that. It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah. So, tell me a little bit more. Tell our listeners a little bit more about the work that you do and where you do it.
Okay. Right now, I'm the wellness refugee. I don't know where I do it. Right now I'm doing it at Mount Shasta, kind of wandering around, trying to piece it all together with all the COVID restrictions and everything. It's a bit interesting. But traditionally, most of my work has been based out of a clinic called Joint Dynamics in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And it's a physical therapy, personal training studio with some different healing arts going on as well. So it's a good place. That's where I was during the year. I got stuck there for a year during the pandemic. And that was my home there. I'm very grateful to these people. They did me some good. And I would go between there and Thailand. So my family's in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and it's a very easy, quick flight. So I go back and forth, go in, hammer out some days and go home for a few days, go back. And then a few times a year, I would go to different retreats, such as retreats in the Maldives, a place called Sunivajani, or Then a really great one I used to go to called Chiva Sum, which is in southern Thailand. Then for many years I was a visiting practitioner at a place called Kamalaya, also in Thailand. And then getting taken to different private retreats by different, you'll meet people and they say, hey, what would it take to get you to come to Pakistan? Like I went to Pakistan and worked with, I was like, plane tickets and a retainer fee. Like, okay, we got that. So we just get I was like, I want to bring a couple of my other friends. So bring in a cranial therapist and maybe a yoga teacher and an acupuncturist. And then we go.
Wow.
We just form it and go. But most of my journeys internationally have been just through families, just because they would come to Kamalaya or come to Chivasam every year, and then they would say, well, why don't we just take you to us so that you can work on me and my family and all my friends, and that's what you do. So because you get treated and you get taken out, that's what happened just in New York. A dear friend of mine who I met at Kamalaya brought me there to work on his mom and was helping me create a space that, because we all saw the world kind of going up in flames, this and that, so create an opportunity in America, because it had been a long time since I had come and done any sort of work in America, and that was the first time. So yeah. Before pre-COVID, what was it? When did COVID? It was like 2019 or 2020, March. So I was lined up. I had Hong Kong, I had Holland, I had Spain, I had the Maldives, Ireland, all lined up that year.
Just another year.
Just another year, like. And then within a week, it was all gone. Within a week, I was facing normally having a super busy practice in Hong Kong to zero. With
what are the chances that you're at the epicenter right then?
It was weird. I mean, I remember being in Thailand and I saw kind of happening, and my friend who owns a retreat center called Museflower up in Chiang Rai, this girl named Tanya Ho, she's like, when are you going to Hong Kong? I said, well, I'm thinking about delaying it because of the virus thing. Maybe it'll just blow over in a week or two. And she's like, no, you need to go now. They're canceling all the flights. I'm like, what? So I actually got the last flight out from Chiang Mai on the 18th of March. I was like, okay, I'll just go. And I have a friend who's a Special Forces former recon. His name's Sean Douglas. He works in Singapore running martial arts programs. And he's like, get ready. This could be 2 or 3 months deployment for you. And I was like, okay. Well, what was going to be 15 days, which possibly could have been 4 months, and it had been 15 months.
Wow.
That I was away from my family. And that was the pivotal time in my life. This is really, I'm going out onto the second deployment now. Now I'm here in Mount Shasta getting ready to go to the Maldives and doing what I can do to do my work. I mean, I'm absolutely blessed that I realize this, to be able to still go around and doing healing work. But it's bloody scary because you don't know how things are going to change. I mean, you and I have known each other for a couple weeks now. How many times has my itinerary changed?
Yeah, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I keep on
just
getting
trying
delayed.
To drive you to the airport, man.
Yeah, we were supposed to go on Friday.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be next Wednesday. Who knows? That's the line in the sand. If that doesn't manifest, I'll figure out go back to New York or Hong Kong.
It's really interesting these times. Like, I've noticed that I'm no longer really capable of worrying. Or good. Ruminating in the way that I used to. And that's a gift. I try to look at it like the gift, but it's from having to live constantly in the present moment. Yeah, it's a challenging place and time to make plans from. And I can't imagine what that was like for you, especially, with your family far away and all the concerns of how to make a living. And at what point did you realize that you didn't know how long you'd be there? Because it can be an adjustment from 15 days to 3 or 4 months, and then, whoa.
That's a very interesting question, because I was entertaining that. I was in Manhattan a few weeks ago, and I was taking a long 20K walk through the city. I like to cruise around, and I was like thinking, what was harder when the first part of the pandemic in Hong Kong or now? And I say, the first part of the pandemic in Hong Kong, we didn't know what was going on. We knew that it was going to affect us like for a while, but I didn't really know. We're just like, and it wasn't. we never really knew. This was a week-to-week, almost day-to-day thing. You'd be checking. I think the people at the Thai embassy, they definitely got to know me. Oh, here's Stephen again, checking on everything's how the Thai requirements have changed or anything like that. And when I was in New York, I'd been through it. I'd already seen the war, and I knew what I was up against again. And that was the frightening thing, because I already knew it. I knew it was a very different face. It was like I was going back into Vietnam, but I was going back into a different province. I was going back doing the same stuff, surviving, taking care of, trying to protect people at home. Mm-hmm. But it was a different face. And it was actually much more terrifying. When I got to New York and realized what I was doing again. And I was like, when am I going to be able to go home again? I don't know. Because then Thailand was hitting the wall again. All their restrictions were going haywire, and I'm sitting here in New York, and then they started to go haywire again. I was like, finally got someplace where, I could walk around in open space without a mask and feel okay. Then all of a sudden, it's fucking going to collapse here again. It's like I kept on missing these fires, but I was out just doing what I was doing. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Which just made me think of something I learned recently about trauma healing, which I'm committed to in my work too, is that it's not the event that's traumatic, it's what the body has to go through afterwards. And so you sharing that with me, what I was seeing in your experience was your body knows.
Yeah.
It's been here before. Mm-hmm. So that can be more traumatizing to be putting your body through a situation that feels so familiar to it. With that, trauma is really recent too, right? Like you weren't home.
I was home for 3 months, as long as I could. Yeah. Then it was just I had to go make money. Mm-hmm. So when I was getting ready to go, Thailand had canceled all the flights. So I'm like, shit, how am I going to get to Bangkok to get out of here? And so we're like in the middle of a CrossFit workout, me and my wife, Noe. I'm like, Noe, we got to like make plans like now. She goes, let's get done with the workout. I'm like, no, like literally now we have to. I said, can you just check and see? So she checked her phone. She got the last train out of Chiang Mai.
See, because things changed that quickly.
Things were changing that quickly. So it was like all of a sudden, I got thrown from that point. That was like a few days out. I was back in the trauma and I had to end my trip before I thought I was going to have to, because I stretched it right up to the end. I was going to catch the last flight out. I had to leave like 2 days earlier. So I'm like, fuck, I got robbed of 2 days with my family. And so, hard memory. Saying goodbye at the train was really hard. And yeah. You were still in the process of saying hello. Yeah. So it was 3 months in. Then I had to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's good to talk about it.
Yeah. What's very alive for you in this moment?
How the stuff is still there, and the strength that it requires to move on.
Yeah, the threat's not gone.
Yeah.
It never was, huh?
No, so, I can remember waving out of the train and seeing them as the train clickety-clack go down, and just going, when am I going to see them again? Is it going to be another year? So we don't know.
Yeah.
Right now, when I left, I had it lined up that I was going to come to New York, and then I was going to roll into a month in Maldives, and then I was going to go home for a month, and then because Thailand was going to open in October, and then I was going to be at this place Chivasam. Then all of that changed.
Yeah.
And hence me and you were having this wonderful discussion.
Yeah. Well, that's the silver lining. I'm grateful.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm sorry to you and your family for what you're going through there too. And it's, I think it's easy in the United States, and I don't want to discount at all anyone's personal experiences with COVID and how much it's changed everyone's lives.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like, what you've shared with me. So what was that like in Hong Kong when COVID broke out?
Oh man, what was it like? I remember when I was at Chiva Summit, I was getting out, and I remember looking at what was going on. I actually talked to my friend, the Force Recon guy, Sean, in Singapore, and he goes, "This is gonna fuck up the planet Earth." I'm like, "God, you got the worst PTSD."
Yeah.
You talking? You always see the extreme. Well, he's trained to see the extreme, so of course he's going to see the extreme. And he was fucking right. He was absolutely right. And when I went in like February and things were getting, I was like, why is everyone wearing masks? This is so weird. Everyone's so paranoid. What the hell? And I was like, maybe I should wear one too. Because I was like this lone white guy walking around with all the Asians like covered up and gloves, and I was like, this is maybe they know
still
something.
Human too.
Maybe they know something I don't know. So I started wearing it, and then I went back home, and then it was the next month that I went. That a 15-day journey turned into 15 months, and so being there. I mean, I can be real honest. There could have been way worse places to be stuck. I mean, Hong Kong is a fantastic place. I don't know if you've never been there. It's mountains and a fantastic city and beaches and miles of wonderful trail running and swimming. There's surfing, stand-up paddleboarding. It is an amazing place. Plus, it's a thumping financial center. So when COVID first hit, I was completely like dead. Like I lost all of my old clients, and a lot of them I never gained back because a lot of them left. They're like, fuck this, I'm leaving. Because as you said,
your demographic changed.
They're like, we're going back to the States, we're going to the UK, we're done. And then it shifted. Then it shifted to America. Then it shifted to the UK, as we know, and it hit them a hell of a lot worse because they didn't do what the Asian people were doing. People in the countries in Asia were conditioned by SARS-CoV-1, so they'd seen it before. And we'd never seen anything. We'd never, seen anything like this on U.S. soil, and so we didn't really know what to do. They didn't know what to do. But it was weird. It was like being in this weird George Orwell 1984. People were so compliant, but it's Hong Kong is extremely condensed. I mean, I was in New York City a few weeks ago, and
you're like, people are so far apart.
They were comparatively, yeah. I mean, and I was like, why did it never go nuts in Hong Kong? Because they did, like, they went down. I mean, you got fined $5,000 if you didn't wear a mask.
Wow.
So you did it. And I just was diligent. I had to, and I just started just piecing together my practice again and working nose to the grindstone, and was able to build it back up through, what do they say? The gods take care of healers. Thank goodness they do, because I definitely needed it then. I was looking at the empty practice and 3 mouths to feed back in Thailand, and on the sole support of the family, especially during COVID, because my wife Noi had to take care of the children. She couldn't teach yoga anymore. All that was closed. Couldn't brew her kombucha. She was mom. Full-time job, even harder than what she had done before.
School
that's
teacher
for sure.
and dad too.
Yeah, she was teaching school English as her second language. So one of the silver linings also now, she's been doing a fair amount of online school with the little one Noah, where her English has escalated to, because she was teaching him,
Yeah.
That was beautiful actually. Because when I first met Noi, when I brought her down to Kam Lai to teach yoga, she could barely speak a word. She used to call me Mr. Gorilla.
You're like, there's no white people here to correct you, so that's cute.
Yeah. So it was definitely interesting, but it was the first time through it, so it was like I didn't know what was going on. So the trauma began to accumulate, 5 months into it. I'm like, this is never gonna. When am I gonna get home? And that's when I started to lose. Like the first few months, I'm a resilient guy. I've done the Ironman, 11 times, and
you stick to your.
I stick to my guns, and normally I'm strong, and I know what I can do, because I also like to have fun, but I always knew what to do to pull it back so I could stay in the light. But as the trauma went on, the ability to do that waned. And I'm human. I'm not beyond what happened there. And what happened there was a complete unraveling of my soul and my physical soul. So started. If anybody's been to Hong Kong, it's a damn fun place.
Yeah.
People always ask you, "Hey, you want to meet for a beer?" Well, why the hell not?
Yeah.
I don't got children to wake up for. I'm going to go out and have a couple beers. Well, I always would drink socially, but never to that volume. And so the next thing you know, you're going out drinking 4 or 5 days a week. Started smoking cigarettes because the lung meridian governs grief.
Yeah.
And and then I had gained 25 pounds.
And how are your somatic practices then?
Oh, I can't believe I was still getting so busy, because I knew I had fallen from grace, but I didn't know truly, because I was terrified to get on the scale. But I just knew things were getting more difficult. I was doing Muay Thai. I was still working out, but you can't work out when you're that fat effectively.
Yeah.
And that toxically. So I was doing rounds, going to Muay Thai station in Wan Chai and working out with my buddy Tap and my buddy Sam and Weddy at the Muay Thai station. They were... But, then I'd say, "Hey, Tap, let's have another round." He goes, nah, it's Friday, let's go have a beer. I'm like, "Oh, okay, screw it, let's go have a beer." And got real big, real corpulent, real unhealthy. And then my elbows started to hurt through all the inflammation from all the drinking, and I started taking pain meds. Before I knew it, I'm right there taking, 5 to 8 tramadols a day to control the pain.
Well, that's hard on your liver too.
And then
so how were you sleeping then? Not at all.
Here comes the next one.
Right.
So I had to sleep. Then I was like, I can't sleep. So they got Xanax. So I was doing this cocktail of alcohol, tobacco, Xanax, and tramadol. And it was killing me. And I was getting gout in my feet. I'm like, what the fuck? I was, always this, former Ironman, but still doing stuff, trail running. I mean, a year later, I'd run a 55K in the mountains in northern Thailand. I felt I was in great health, always. Well, not anymore. I'd lost that. And that was the one thing that got me grounded to the world, was my ability to be a warrior. We can't be a warrior if you're sick. Yeah. And so the first thing to go was the opiates. They went. And then it got then that got replaced by another thing to help me not think. This stuff called modafinil. You ever heard of that? It's like this kind of Adderall type stuff.
Oh, okay.
I was like, Jesus Christ, I've turned into a full on like white collar drug addict, and so that comes in another part of the thing, just choosing it to quit it all. And go into a recovery program, a Buddhist addiction recovery program. So I'm doing that now. Wow. So I haven't had anything in 129 days, something like that. So I'm fully, but that stuff was easy to let go of. It's the underlying stuff that is what I'm looking at now, which is why I'm talking with you, which is why I met you. Yeah. Because we did that trauma work, which anybody, by the way, you're an awesome therapist.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And it's neat to be recognized in this area.
I knew that. That's why I wanted to get work done by Katie at the Stoneway. Said, and I'm glad.
Well, it's truly an honor, and what you're describing is what I call the proof in the pudding. And when you're saying how you were surprised that people were coming to see you still because of how you didn't look as healthy. Yeah, it was apparent that you weren't as healthy. That's why I'm really drawn to this work too. Not only do I believe in it and the power of how the difference it's made in my life, and I want to help people with that, but I love who I get to be because it requires like impeccable self-care. Yeah. It is a constant daily commitment to keep the proof in the pudding, right?
Yeah, you can't. You got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Your body works way too hard. It's not like once you start touching people, it's a direct transference of energy.
Yeah, I feel like a conduit. I've got to be prepared for that.
You are 100%. Anything like you go into a bar, you're bringing all that energy from whoever you were coinciding with, any of the ghosts you ran into that bar. You bring them into your therapy session, which is unfair for your client. I'm not saying you can't go out and have fun, but you can't do it that much. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Keep the shadow world at a real small percentage of your fun, and then stay in balance most of the time.
It's my multi-pass it's my no drama llama. Yeah, Keep that out of my field. Yeah. So you started your recovery program while you were in Hong Kong?
No. Yes, I did. I started my son had a seizure when I was there, and he was diagnosed with juvenile myoclonic epilepsy.
Wow.
And there's nothing I could do. So it was, and I had decided to go off the painkillers like 5 days before. So thank God. So I had a clear mind when all this happened. And this was the catalyst, because I remember sitting there going, who's going to help me? And the reality was no one.
Yeah.
Only me. Especially there, because I was all alone. So I had been doing, very involved with Noah Levine and Against the Stream Meditation Society, which is really cool. If you haven't checked it out, do.
Yeah.
He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got books. I'm reading them. In fact, so I called, him and I knew, I'd met Noah through the internet years ago, like 20 years ago, when he first wrote his book called Dharma Punks, and he had given me some advice then. I was like, I'm just listening to it. I love it. It keeps me in a good space, so I'm just going to reach out to him. I said, Noah, do you do private counseling? Well, sure. So I set up a session with him, and we were talking, and I talked about what I was talking with you. He goes, do you think you're an addict? And that was the first time I thought about it. Of course, my answer to him was like, no, I don't think so, man. But then after the weeks going by, I was like, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. And so, but it didn't kick in until I left. I had a window of opportunity in May to leave, because Thailand they had opened up their borders to a 7-day quarantine for vaccinated people, and it only lasted for a few weeks. And then shit started hitting the fan, and it was looking like they were going to close their borders entirely again, because they did that in the beginning. So I left real quick from Hong Kong. It was like, but I guess that was the only way to do it. I pulled the ripcord and left. And when I got to the airport, I said, it all stops now. And so I used that 7-day quarantine as my initial detox.
Oh, great.
So I was sitting in a nice hotel space in Bangkok detoxing, when I would normally be in Bangkok retoxing.
Yeah.
Having a time of my life, but it was not then, and it was time to change all of that. And I got back, and that's when I realized, I saw a picture of myself, and I was like, my God, I am really unhealthy looking. I'm so large.
Yeah.
And I went to this shopping center, we were getting some food, and I just stepped on a scale. I was like, oh. It was 7 kilos, I can't remember, and I put in the pounds, like, my God, I'm like full 15 pounds heavier than I ever was even in college.
Yeah. I
was like, I feel like I was like an out of shape old middle linebacker or something like that. And it was horrific. And so I was going to do Muay Thai twice a week and do some light running. I called the guy, I said, come every day. We're going to do a 5 or 6 day training routine. Then I called my buddy at Chiang Mai CrossFit, and Brad Jenkins, awesome guy, runs Chiang Mai CrossFit. And I said, I want to work out with you, hire you. And I started lifting weights with him 3 days a week, and I brought my son, and that was my recovery. And then I was running with a sweat jacket as well, just trying to get my lymph. Mm-hmm. And Thailand is very, very hot. Sorry about that. Thailand is very, very hot, and I would just sweat it out. And that was the beginning of because I needed to get my inner temple clean before I could really adequately start facing the other stuff.
Yeah, I love how you documented your journey by video. I enjoyed watching that and seeing, cool. Yeah. 5 days after, 15 days after, or whatever. And something stuck out. You had a post Hong Kong interview, and you said something like, no amount of therapy can heal you. You've got to change your chemistry.
Yeah, you got to change your chemistry before you can work on stuff. And one of my mentors had told me that. It's like, just nail the physical stuff first.
Yeah,
you can't do everything at once. Nail the physical stuff and then start working on it.
I think that's really profound for especially people dealing with addiction, because one thing that I've learned about that is that even when you stop and technically detox from whatever you're dealing with, the anatomy of the addiction, it continues. Yeah, it's a long process. It'll affect your brain.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really even realize that. I just thought, and because when I first started doing the Narcotics Anonymous while I was in quarantine, I was like, these guys are real addicts. Uh-huh. Like, I was like, I've never been, done what these guys are doing. These guys are addicts, and this is not my scene.
Was it because they were like career addicts.
Yeah, career, and these guys, it derailed their lives in really profound ways. And I just said, this isn't me, man. I'm just going to do this kind of by myself. And then I talked to a few people, actually, like other people in the healing, my healing path. And one was, I actually has asked her to be like my sponsor. She was one who first introduced me to the fact that I could have a problem. That was years ago when I was working at Kamalaya. I'm like, Patty, I don't have an issue. It's all right. But I had talked to her, and then we talked about that stuff, that underlying, and that's so. The first client I had, because I did some work after I felt like I, just maybe having, buy grocery money for the week or something like that. So I started working on people. And the first guy came in, one thing, he showed up really early, and I'm always impressed by that for, people not showing up late, showed up early. He walked in and covered in tattoos. This guy named Sean, he was a drummer for a punk band. And we're working, and it came up that he was 25 years clean, because I'd asked him, he had issues with his elbows. I said, well, if you're drinking, you may want to stop. And he goes, I haven't drunk in 25 years. I said, okay, we'll throw that theory out the window. And I said, you haven't drunk in 25 years? Why? He goes, well, I'm in recovery. And I said, so what do you do here? What's your job? And he said, I'm a therapist at these recovery centers. I'm like,
too cool.
God. How does this is like perfect first client. This is like an angel.
That's
sure.
Again, the universe taking care of healers.
100%. Yep. And I said, well, do you do trauma work? And he goes, yeah. So that was also, so I surrounded myself with all these different angels, Brad from Chiang Mai CrossFit, Kun Teet, the boxing guy, and then Sean doing the therapy. So I would go do therapy. And then I was also working on my full sleeve. And there was a guy from Kun Mod for Modzilla Tattoo. And he was also in recovery too. So I was like talking to all these different people. So I had assembled, without even really thinking consciously about it, a crew of angels.
Dream team.
Yeah, I had my dream team to help me. So I really worked hard for 3 months, and then I had to go because the reality of the world, I needed to go make the cash. So I stepped out again.
Yeah. So who do you have in your on your team right now, and what tools do you have to help you in this second deployment?
You.
Yeah.
You were the first person I met. You were the one. So yeah, that's you.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
100%. I mean, how likely is that going to be? I just asked Katie, and she referred me, and then coming to you and all this, it's you. And that's why I'm trying to connect you with the world as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know what awaits me in the Maldives. Maybe I'll find someone, but for right now, it's you.
Yeah.
You're my angel.
Well, I feel truly blessed. I know that the world needs us, and I know that, and from hearing your story, that's also why when you needed help and you pushed that stop the world button, it came to you because you're very important for this work. See, so being that we don't even know where we are in the timeline of this pandemic, it'd be easy to say we're in the middle or whatever. We don't even know. That's part of the trauma.
Yeah.
And we're all having to go through or come out of our own adjustment period of being traumatized by it, finding resilience in it.
Yeah.
We got to stick together.
Yeah.
It's really important work.
I just saw a interesting thing on Instagram. A friend of mine posted from Amsterdam. Keep the healers close to you, because you're going to need them. And that's so true. I think that the post and recovering pandemic world, the wellness industry is going to take off, because we're all so injured from this.
Yeah.
I mean, it was doing really well before, but it was people almost more so on, it was a different trajectory of injured people. Now it's like the entire planet, with the exception of all the billionaires, are making money from this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah. And your story, and how strong and healthy you were, and how impervious to something like this happening. It seemed that way, but it can happen to any of us, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's for sure.
I feel like that's what happened to me in 2007 when my husband died and I became a mom, and I just kind of felt like I'd been cut off at the knees, and my trauma took me farther back than it had ever been. And I've been, recovering from that. And I'm remembering before that happened, I had come so far from the trauma of my childhood. I really believed that I was invincible. I was almost on the mountaintop challenging God, and I found out that it's a part of being human. Being vulnerable. Well, and that none of us are immune.
No.
And it's a process that no matter what we may find ourselves going through.
Hell.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's an interesting, doing all the Ironman, all the CrossFit, all the ultras, all the intense stuff that I've done. I thought I could get away with everything as far as like stuff to my body. I thought I wasn't, I like looking back, I was like, of course you would get addicted. Why did you think you couldn't? Or you were so proud or driven by ego and stubbornness that you just overrode the thinking about like, man, I remember getting out the painkillers, actually like crushed up how much I would take for a week. And I looked at this pile of white stuff and I was like, oh, that is so disgusting.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that.
That's going to go in the...
It's going in
down
there.
The
what
hatch.
about my liver, my kidneys? And no wonder I was having stomach issues and throwing up a lot. It was because I was diseased from opioids, and Xanax and all, alcohol, all that stuff. And negative thoughts. That all that really transpires from...
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now on addiction. Most fascinating thing is it's not just drugs and alcohol. And it's not just porn too. It is our thought processes. It's our behaviors. We as humans are very prone to addiction, and it can be worse when we think we're not.
Yeah, well, I definitely thought I wasn't.
And where there's trauma, there's addiction. That's just the anatomy of the beast.
Yeah.
What do you like about the program that you're in?
I guess why I was sort of more drawn to it, I guess I had an affinity with Noah's work, and I'd always liked, and I was sort of like immersed in Buddhist culture and Buddhist philosophy that it just seemed to make sense to me. There's no dissing NA or any of those other, they were great, but they weren't as good as this for me, because, we get, you do a 20-minute meditation, then you get into it. So there's, you talk about Buddhism as well as not only your addiction and hearing people, unload their stuff, but there's stuff that is involved in my own spiritual practice. So I thought of it as my way to increase the spiritual practice, as opposed to I don't, for whatever reason, NA didn't appeal to me. Maybe I hit it at a different stage of my whole thing, but this refuge recovery definitely did. Yeah. So I do a couple, 3, 4 online meetings. Yeah. And
what kind of spiritual practices have you incorporated that are...
Just the basic stuff, basic Buddhist breath work. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm still such a novice. It's still a daily thing. Oh, shit, I didn't do my breath work or my meditation today. It's way harder to do that than, say, go down and suffer with Scott down and doing his workouts down at the CrossFit gym, or going up and walking. It's a true discipline that I oftentimes are weak at. But it always makes me feel profoundly better. And I know when the feeling like 4 or 5 days have gone where I haven't done it, I'm less kind.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's harder?
I just think I got such a crazy monkey mind that it's just hard to tame it. And I come from decades of taming it through movement. Well, as I get older, the ability to move that stuff through isn't as effective.
So sitting meditation is a new practice for you.
I've been doing for a long time, but it's the hard, like, people ask me, what's the hardest thing you did physically? I said, well, the Vipassana retreat.
Oh,
that made the Ironman look like a walk in the park.
Wow.
That was way more challenging than the Ironman was for me.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing, everything that was involved in it. Once again, my mother advised me to do that. So that would be good for me. So 2 days in, I'm like, I was cursing her. Why would she ever tell me to do this? This is hell. But it was great when I got out of it. And then I put on the top of my triathlon bike, breathe, big letters.
Yeah.
So the next Ironman I did, I remember like looking down, I was like, oh yeah. Breathe. Got 56 more miles to go. Then I got to run a marathon. Breathe. And now eat some gels, some bananas, and let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that change your physiology when you had breathe as your...
It was less. I was less attached to pain. I could let it go. I could recognize it. It didn't stay with me the entire time driving at me. It was more of a off and on experience relationship with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't so consuming.
So this is a fascinating topic. I want to try not to fall into the rabbit hole, but touch on it with your... I love George Leonard and the whole human potential movement, and his heir apparent has begun this whole sports energy consciousness movement. And what I've touched on through them is that the way that athletes' minds work, the way to operate as an athlete so that you reach that peak state. Really getting into what is the peak state and how to reach it. And this is as I was developing myself, which I'm still developing myself, but as an athlete, still in a line of work that was laboring. And I was like, what if I labor like an athlete? And you know what that meant was that I reduced my hours quite a bit. I was like, this 8-hour stuff is a no.
I need training for 8 hours a week.
No, laboring as far as like my work. No, but I would, everything that I did, rather than recovering from the labor by drinking or smoking or sitting down and numbing out by the television, addiction, because the laboring felt like trauma, because I was motivated by my traumas, my way of being brought up, that I had to act that way for survival. So as soon as I started to view the hours that I was working as a workout and prepare myself, I started to take better care of myself. So you know, every day starts the night before. And you prepare yourself the night before with what you eat, how you sleep. And I started getting up. That's when I started doing CrossFit and doing CrossFit beforehand. Yeah. And then juicing. And I would be like on a job site at 9 a.m. Really fucking happy, you know? And I had a lot better stamina.
You'll need that as you progress in your body work.
Yeah, I've got to keep that in mind.
Even more so, like approaching that, like sometimes going to the office, I feel like I'm getting ready to go do an Ironman or something like that. I got little things here, little things there, hit in the office. Can I take a pee?
Yeah.
Okay. Your juice is...
Okay, so in terms of this sports mentality, I want to take that now into a conversation of how we can apply that to our everyday life.
Okay.
So I've been working on my breath work and stretching more. And what I've found is that when I'm running now, I'm running like my lungs are behaving as if I'm in a breathing meditation, but my body's running. And I never knew that could be possible. I thought, even in great cardio health, I thought you had to be out of breath. And practicing this enough that today, for example, not to get into any details, but I had an extremely heartbreaking, stressful time. And I found my body instantly, naturally begin to breathe the way that it does when it's working hard. You know, when I'm running uphill, when I'm all that time laboring, like I was working out, you know, and my body shifted my state, not me thinking, oh, I should shift my state. Does that make sense? Like, that practice stepped in for me. And I was just like, wow, hallelujah. Thank goodness for like all of these practices. Yay for consistency.
Yay for having that sort of physical preparedness. I mean, I would say 100% that the Ironman was probably one of the most beneficial things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because it, in so many different ways, but one of the ways was it just prepared you to deal with incessant uncomfortable situations as life is coming in. You know, it's in many ways a metaphor for life. There'll be some times during the race you'll feel like, God, I got this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to qualify for Hawaii, no problem. Mm-hmm. And then 3 minutes later, like, oh my God, am I cramping? Oh shit. Oh no.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
constant dialogue.
Constant crisis management, which is, and that mindset that you're developing through going through the CrossFit and some of the stuff you've done before, I think is really applicable to surviving better. Mm-hmm. Maybe surviving without going down so hard. But I would also say that, us as athletes, we have very fickle emotional states. And that's what draws us to it, because it helps us stay away from those. Mm-hmm. It helps us stay well. Those hard runs, those hard CrossFit classes. Going to that state of pain is almost like an exorcism of demons for that day or that hour. Exactly. That kind of like maybe can carry on for the rest of the day or several hours, but you have to watch that it doesn't become an escape, but it's more of a tool to help you.
Yeah, that's another form of addiction, actually, is exercise. So
yeah, it is.
A healthy habit could be overdone.
I would say, when you look at it, you have to, the good that comes from that mostly, as opposed to an addiction of other, drugs and alcohol, the addiction to exercise. But I have seen, and myself included, I've put relationships on the rocks because I'd rather go out and ride 120 miles than spend the day shopping with my partner or something. It was like, that was incredibly boring, but but I would say majority.
Not as many endorphins on that one.
No, not at all. I would say the majority of times with people, I would say the exercise, if you want to call it an addiction, you can, but it leads your life in better places than the alternative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. What a delicate balance it is. And know everybody talks about the why. I use the words for the sake of what I'm doing something, but we have our reason for our practices, and most of us are just working to stay at that level of fitness, mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical fitness.
Yeah.
And as your story, and thank you for so honestly sharing it, reminds us that it is. It's a delicate balance. So, just curious, I want to brainstorm with you now. How can we take some of this and moving forward? Like, what advice would you have for healers out there right now that may be with that big question mark of how do I reinvent myself now, or
with what's gone on with the world?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. You got to find some sort of community of people who are going through similar things and understand you, because we're in the healing arts. We're kind of weird, It's kind of weird work. So we got weirdness to us. So we need to find weird friends that understand weird stuff.
We're always running alone to process stuff. Yeah.
We're not like you're not like hitting computers and trading gold, in stocks. We're plowing through spirit, we're plowing through flesh and ligaments and energy, and that is a very different thing, and it requires an interesting mindset. So what's gone on, and I think this is why I wanted to line with you, and I wanted to share my connections with you, because that's what it's all about. It's about inner referrals and connection and helping other people, because we're special on this planet. Mm-hmm. Special, in traditional societies we're revered highly. The medicine men and Native Americans and the monks in Thai or Buddhist society, or the Shaolin Kung Fu monks, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and being that we're typically loners or a little strange, as you're saying, that we forget that we're part of a larger body.
Yeah.
We are a healing system.
Yeah.
On this planet. So, in my somatic coaching program I got a scholarship for it, and it started during COVID. The first one crashed because they weren't ready to be teaching online.
Oh, wow.
And so the second one that came in, they were a little more prepared, but everything was like keto based. It's supposed to be like, 40 hours every 2 months of like contact. And here we are, like outside in a field with masks on, 6 feet apart, trying to like develop this way of being as a somatic coach. It was incredibly challenging. I felt a little more gifted in that I had a background in Aikido and had been through the somatic bodywork course with the Strozzi Institute, and that was full contact. And we had been exposed to that. Maybe it was more challenging because I knew how it could have been. But the point that I want to make is a lot of it became online. And I had a learning curve there. It was very frustrating at times to be trying to upload videos of me coaching people onto a certain platform. And all these things, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I work with my hands, not computers, right?
Yeah.
I'm person to person, not interfacing on computers. But it was really a gift in that I actually was able to build a business. I'm just getting started. I'm not a mogul or anything, but like, and have it function by coaching people over Zoom regularly. Yeah. And being that these people were also in isolation or had limited contact in their life, it turned into like being on the computer in their living room and led through physical practices was a way bigger gift than nothing. Mm-hmm. So, I'm always thinking of how can we stay more connected and how can we offer our gift if we can't be physically in someone's presence.
That's why we need to hire someone who understands the tech world and really do our thing. And a visionary like yourself. So you got to have someone that has an ability to take what's in your heart and your spirit and then morph it into a palatable way and then get the person who can sit behind a computer. Yeah.
So whoever wants to be our techie.
Yeah, we need a techie.
Come on in.
Yeah, we need tech people, social media wizards, all that. Marketing. Yeah. We're calling you.
And we've had enough experience to really value and respect what you do.
I know that we can't do it ourselves. I can't. Yeah,
but that's one thing that comes to me. Is there anything, any ideas that you've had as far as, ways that we can offer ourselves or stay connected?
Yeah, I think, I've seen some attempts at like forums and getting people connected more, like groups. Like I'm on, pre-COVID, I was getting on like a group of kind of higher end therapists throughout the world in different cities. So, people who are traveling around a lot and really liked super high end stuff, they could look through this website and pick, Stephen's in Hong Kong, or hey, Sary's in Mount Shasta, or hey, Roger's in
where are they now?
Yeah, where are they? So it's that's pretty cool. So you enter a city and you can look up who the therapists are. Mm-hmm. Where are they? And you connect them. And also for people looking to they want to establish little retreats. So that's the hardest thing to do is people you retreat for.
Yeah, because they're usually women catering now.
Yeah, people you want to work with, people who are amazing. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool, I thought, and I hope that gets going again. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, networking. So this is usually where I ask what's next for you. You've kind of led into what you're hoping is next is that you get to back to the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And that.
Next, what's next? Next is to go to this place in the Maldives and be of service to as many people as I can and make some good money and go home for Christmas. Mm-hmm. That's the immediate, but the long-term goal would be to get involved with more teaching. Okay. And, because this work is hard and I'm 54 and I don't want to be doing all the intense body work for so much longer. Mm-hmm. I'd rather be teaching. And so one of the silver linings of the pandemic, I was able to buy a little piece of land up in northern Thailand in Chiang Mai. And me and my wife, Noi, we want to start a little center, little small place, herbal steam, having body work. We thought about maybe putting up a Muay Thai ring and doing some martial arts, and then also having like body work, like high end stuff where, like say, I'd invite you over. Me and you would teach stuff for 2 weeks, and we'd create, which is happening right now.
Yeah.
See it? So,
well, yeah, I've actually
write
just
that stuff
begun,
down.
like, I'll design my own little hut right next to,
Yeah.
as I,
yeah. So you
Design
just
your
you
layout.
like you create, and people come to you.
yeah,
Because right now I'm still going out, and so
that's what I see for you too.
yeah, I'm
yeah.
just I'm getting too old to do all this stuff. You know, it's like to keep going and traveling around. Although I will probably always do it to some extent. It's just hard work. You know, body work is hard. When you pour your soul into it, it drains your chi. And that is really where you start to age, is being a body work. It's not necessarily the physical, because I'm built like an old, you know, I'm powerful. But it's because I can't stop pouring my soul into people. I want them to heal. I want to do the very best I can in every session.
Yeah.
And that drains you. That's why I limit my sessions now. I used to be able to do like 7. I remember my mentor, Clint Chandler from Boulder, said you're doing dangerously high levels of body work. But I was young, just trying to do what I did, and he was bloody right. Now I just did them. I cap it at 4.
That's an imperative thing that you could be teaching new healers.
Yeah. Just basic stuff that we take as granted, everything we know. People don't know this stuff, from basic how to do body work properly, with heartfulness, with mindfulness, with intention, meaningful intention, to self-preservation, all sorts of things. You know, there's always room for teaching people in a small, intimate setting is what I'm wanting to do.
Yeah.
I've seen some cool schools like in Costa Rica and stuff like that. I was like, I should go teach her. I was like, no, I want to teach them to come. I want to start my own thing, because I don't like working with other people because there's too much drama. You know?
So have subcontractors, essentially,
there you
like
go.
you have been for other
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just have people come in and have your core group of people, and then have a side thing, a side healing center, then a teaching center.
Yeah. What's the name of your center?
I like this thing called Sukopop, which means excellence in Thai.
Oh.
Yeah, that was actually the name of my wife's kombucha business in Koh Samui. She probably won't want to use it again, but I like that term.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. And what are just some basic first things that pop up as far as what you would want to put in your curriculum? What are your, I don't know if you have 3 or 5 like cornerstones, principles?
Just everything that was kind of, a lot of stuff that was taught to me at the Boulder College of Massage Therapy. So
Cool.
many because I was the pioneer of body work in it, and it was the Yale of massage therapy schools. You know, it was such a good place. So, you know, teaching a lot what we learned, you know, and that would be it. And having people come in who, you know, I have some colleagues now who are running or involved in schools, and having them help create, because it's a lot of work, you know, and then you subcontract it out, get people to help you out. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
Love that you have answers for that already.
Trying to, yeah.
So
I've been
it's
thinking about it.
incubating,
Yeah,
huh?
Yeah, it's incubating.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
How could people get a hold of you? Our listeners are curious about Stephen. Tell them, how can they find out more?
The website is StephenKirwinTherapies.com. So StephenKirwin Therapies.com. That's my website. And then Instagram, Stephen Kirwin Therapies. That's probably the best way. Yeah. I'm going to start to phase out Facebook. I really don't like it much. So, that's it.
Okay, and they could reach out if they had any questions for you.
Yeah.
And then I will also share some of the books and people that you've recommended today. Noah Levine, thank you so much. I'm really going to look into that myself, and more about what your mom did. The
Curfaid.org.
Yeah.
And she's not going there anymore, but it's still going. She's 86. She would go there. She was driving her motorbike, you know, just a few years ago in her 80s through crazy Indian streets, and it was like she always had big accidents, but man, that woman was divinely protected. She
knows it.
Given beyond 9 lives. I mean, she's had so much stuff that would kill other people.
Yeah.
And she just keeps going. So I'm here to see her because I don't know when the end of her time is coming. So I need to. So I think all these delays of me getting to the Maldives, there's time for me to deepen my relationship with my mother for the next life and meet people and deepen my relationships with people like yourself and people at the gym.
Yeah.
So you always have a choice. You can look at that negative thing like, damn it, keep on getting delayed. Or, wow, okay, more time with mom, more time to lose the weight I gained in New York City, eating all the pizza and hamburgers, all the stuff that was amazing there, and just keep on rocking on.
Yeah.
Keep the vibration high. You have that decision every day to go down that avenue of being a fun, happier person or just be a morose. Yeah. And sometimes we don't. We go into the dark, but you always have the choice not to.
Love it. That's the nugget of today.
That's it.
Yeah, we're always in choice.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the reconnection with your mom. She's going to be calling you and saying, that girl just won't stop coming over.
Yeah, bring her some cookies. She loves those.
I'll bring her some cookies. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
You're
Is there
welcome.
anything else you want to throw out there?
I just really want to say it's just an honor. I just like that we have the opportunity to share this. And as far as anybody wanting to support on anything you do, I mean, Sary's an amazing trauma therapist. I just love what you do. And we've been through the mill, so you can always reach out to us. You have our contact information. People struggling with addictions or anything. We're not professionals, but we are comrades.
Yeah.
So if you're having a hard time, and you don't have anybody to talk to, we'd be happy to
can at least
help
support
you
you and help you get on the road.
Yeah. Maybe direct you to people we know who are professionals, but we're damn good people, and we got an ear.
Don't try to do it alone.
Yeah, don't try to do it alone. Too hard.
You're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. We love you.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you.